So the South African Special Risk Insurance Association says it's confident it can step in to rescue looted businesses. The damage from the current spate of looting and destruction to property is estimated to be about worth tens of billions of rand. Does the state-owned SASRIA have reserves that run deep enough to try settle the flood of expected claims? Joining us now to try answer that question is Managing Director of the association, Cedric Masondo. But Masondo, thanks very much indeed for making time. It's lovely to have you on the program. There are already colored sentiments that what we're seeing now, the vandalism we've just experienced, will create the single biggest challenge to the association since it was founded in the 1970s. Is that an exaggeration or does it sound right?
Good morning, and thank you for having me in your show. It is not an exaggeration. It's a reality. Just by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday last week, we're quite confident that we'll be able to meet all claims submitted to us. And that was based on our initial estimation of that the losses were between 3 to 7 billion. But you can imagine the damages have continued. So we are reaching a stage where we realize that we won't be able, there's a possibility that the losses might be just bigger than our reserves and our insurance capacity. But what we started last week, we started preparing for the worst case scenario with our shareholder.
And what does the worst case scenario look like? I mean, take us through the discussions, for instance, you'd have in those preparations.
So the worst case scenario is if the losses are above around in the figure of 20 billion. So 20 billion, it's a figure where it started trigger that discussion. So, but we started the discussion even before that, and that if the losses reach that figure, what do we do? How does the shareholder help us? And bear in mind that we only know these figures, in 3 to 6 months' time. As we stand now, we have enough capital and cash to process claims. But you can imagine it, some of the big losses, it takes time to quantify those losses.
Yeah. Have you managed to quantify the cost of the current claims you have at your disposal?
So what we've received and what has been reported to us, it's very small. Because if you can imagine, it's only last week, Thursday, where most of the people were able to go to their shops. And it was only Thursday where people that we've appointed as loss adjusters to go and do investigation only had access. So, the claims that we've received are just under 500 million, but we know that's not even close to what we're going to receive in weeks to come.
And for those, I guess, who are struggling to place the role of SASRIA, who is able to claim from this insurance body?
So we are an insurance company and owned by government. So, and we work in conjunction with insurance companies. So the insurance companies issue one policy, and that policy includes SASRIA if you want it. So, just on the numbers, just to clarify that, doesn't necessarily mean that all these losses will go to SASRIA, because you have to have an insurance with SASRIA, but also SASRIA's policy is limited to 500 million per insured. So a client might have a number of premises that were banned, and if you total that, might run into billions. But the SASRIA's exposure, the insured, is 500 million.
And even for those companies that are able, I guess, to claim, the prospects of those companies being what they used to be, I guess, that's also something that's still in the air, right? We're not quite sure if a claim means you'll get all the money, for instance, that you're asking for.
I think at this stage, it's safe to say that it's our intention to honor our liabilities. So, but remember that we are only limited up to 500 million. So there are other insurers that we're providing cover in excess of us. So we're all in the dark as to how much is the total cost. But that's why we started the discussion, even at the time where we felt that we still have enough cash and reserves. We started the discussion with the shareholder that should we, the worst case scenario, materialize, and how do we make sure that SASRIA is able to pay those claims and continue to trade.
The government has already released some kind of figures around the number of malls and stores that have been affected. Do you have your own tally? And if so, what does that look like?
So the 20 billion, between 10 and 20 billion, that is our tally for us. This doesn't mean these are property losses, but this is our losses that we think will come to SASRIA with our limits
And how many stores does that translate to? Do you have that figure? That's essentially what I'm asking.
Oh, so no, I don't have it at hand, but it's a number of malls. I mean, what we've seen is that in Durban, in KZN area, almost all malls were affected, but there were two malls that were badly damaged that will need to be rebuilt, and there are a number of warehouses that were also banned that will need to be rebuilt, and of course with looting.
How worried are you about the sustainability of SASRIA after all these claims have, in fact, been logged?
I am worried about sustainability of SASRIA, but I'm also worried about the sustainability of insurance companies, because what happened last week, it's like expecting the insurance company to insure a province and all buildings insured damage, so which is not how you provide capital. So before this losses started, SASRIA was at capital which was 3 times the required limit by the shareholder, by the Prudential Authority. So I am worried about SASRIA, but mostly what is the future. And I can tell you the insurance cost will go up because the insurance company will need to make sure that they increase their capital. So bear in mind that some of the insurers have been paying for COVID claims last year.
Sure. Well, thanks very much indeed for letting us in on, I guess, the conundrum that lies ahead. Really do appreciate your time. Cedric Masondo is the Managing Director at the South African Special Risk Insurance Association, otherwise known as SASRIA.